Welcome to Fairy Tale Nights, your gateway to enchanting stories that soothe the soul. Tonight, we bring you the timeless tale of Cinderella, reimagined as a gentle bedtime story for adults. Leave behind the hustle and bustle of the day as you immerse yourself in this calming narrative. Feel the magic and wonder as we guide you through Cinderella's journey from her humble beginnings to her magical transformation. This is more than a fairy tale. It's a peaceful escape designed to help you unwind and drift into a restful sleep. Close your eyes, relax, and let the magic of Cinderella's story lull you into sweet dreams. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a kind and beautiful young woman named Cinderella. Her father, a wealthy and successful merchant, had remarried after the untimely passing of Cinderella's mother. His new wife, however, was a cold and cruel woman who brought with her two equally malicious daughters. Though Cinderella's father loved her dearly, he was often away on business, leaving her at the mercy of her stepmother and stepsisters. Cinderella's days were filled with endless chores and thankless tasks. From the break of dawn until the fall of night, she cleaned, cooked, and served her stepmother and stepsisters, who treated her with disdain and contempt. Despite her harsh circumstances, Cinderella remained gentle and kind, finding solace in the company of the household animals and the beauty of nature that surrounded her home. Her favorite spot was a secluded part of the garden where she would often sit and dream of a better life. One evening, as Cinderella sat by the hearth, brushing the cinders from her worn dress, her stepmother announced that the king was holding a grand ball in honor of the prince. All eligible maidens in the kingdom were invited, and the prince would choose a bride from among them. Cinderella's heart filled with hope and excitement. She dreamed of attending the ball, dancing in a beautiful gown, and perhaps even catching the eye of the prince. However, her stepmother and stepsisters were quick to quash her hopes. They laughed at the idea of Cinderella attending the ball and ridiculed her appearance. "How could someone like you ever think of going to the ball?" they sneered. Determined to keep her from attending, they gave her an impossible list of chores to complete before they would even consider allowing her to join them. As the day of the ball approached, Cinderella worked tirelessly, hoping against hope that she might finish her tasks and find a way to attend. But no matter how hard she worked, her stepmother and stepsisters always found more for her to do. On the evening of the ball, they left her behind, her heart heavy with disappointment and sadness. Cinderella, feeling utterly defeated, retreated to the garden where she often found solace. She sat on a bench beneath a large tree, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, how I wish I could go to the ball," she whispered to the night air. In that moment of pure despair, a soft, shimmering light appeared before her. As the light grew brighter, it took the form of a kind and gentle woman with a warm smile. "Do not despair, dear child," the woman said. "I am your fairy godmother, and I am here to help you." Cinderella could hardly believe her eyes. Her fairy godmother explained that she had been watching over Cinderella all these years, and that she would grant her wish to attend the ball. With a wave of her wand, the fairy godmother transformed a nearby pumpkin into a magnificent golden carriage. She then turned the mice in the garden into 6 elegant white horses and a rat into a stately coachman. "But what about my dress?" Cinderella asked, looking down at her tattered clothes. "Patience, my dear," said the fairy godmother with a twinkle in her eye. With another wave of her wand, Cinderella's rags were transformed into a breathtaking gown of silver and blue, adorned with delicate lace and shimmering jewels. On her feet, she wore a pair of exquisite glass slippers that sparkled with every step. "You must remember, however," the fairy godmother cautioned, "this magic will only last until the stroke of midnight. At that time, everything will return to its original state. So, you must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12. Cinderella promised to heed her fairy godmother's warning and, filled with gratitude and joy, climbed into the carriage. As the horses whisked her away to the palace, she felt a sense of excitement and wonder she had never known before. The palace was a sight to behold. Its grand halls adorned with the finest decorations and filled with the most elegant guests from all over the kingdom. As Cinderella entered the ballroom, a hush fell over the crowd. Everyone turned to look at the stunning young woman who had just arrived, her beauty and grace captivating all who saw her. Prince, who had been politely greeting guests all evening, was immediately drawn to Cinderella. He made his way through the crowd and, bowing deeply, asked her to dance. As they glided across the dance floor, it felt as though they were the only two people in the room. Cinderella felt an instant connection with the prince, and he with her. They laughed, talked, and danced the night away, lost in each other's company. Time seemed to stand still, and Cinderella was happier than she had ever been. But as the clock began to chime the first stroke of midnight, she remembered her fairy godmother's warning. With a gasp, she pulled away from the prince and fled from the ballroom, leaving behind a bewildered and heartbroken prince. In her haste, one of her glass slippers slipped off her foot and was left behind on the grand staircase. The prince found the slipper and vowed to find the mysterious woman who had stolen his heart. He sent his men throughout the kingdom with orders to try the slipper on every maiden until they found its owner. Meanwhile, Cinderella returned home, her beautiful gown and carriage now gone, replaced by her tattered clothes and the familiar surroundings of her stepmother's house. She kept the magical night in her heart, treasuring the memory of the prince and their time together. The next morning, there was a commotion in the village as the prince's men arrived, carrying the glass slipper. They went from house to house, trying the slipper on every young woman they encountered. When they arrived at Cinderella's home, her stepsisters eagerly tried to squeeze their feet into the delicate shoe, but to no avail. Cinderella watched from the shadows, her heart pounding. She dared to hope as the men asked if there were any other young women in the house. Her stepmother, desperate to keep Cinderella hidden, tried to dismiss them, but the prince's men insisted. Reluctantly, Cinderella stepped forward. Her stepmother and stepsisters scoffed and laughed, convinced that the slipper would never fit her. But as Cinderella gently placed her foot into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The room fell silent, and the prince's men looked at each other in amazement. They had found the mysterious woman who had captured the prince's heart. Cinderella was brought to the palace, where the prince awaited her. As soon as he saw her, his face lit up with joy and recognition. He took her hand and declared his love for her, asking her to be his bride. Overwhelmed with happiness, Cinderella agreed. The prince and Cinderella were married in a grand ceremony attended by all the kingdom. Her stepmother and stepsisters, realizing their folly, begged for Cinderella's forgiveness. True to her kind nature, she forgave them and even invited them to live in the palace, though they would no longer have any power over her. Cinderella and the prince ruled the kingdom with wisdom and compassion, their love for each other growing stronger with each passing day. They often took walks in the gardens, reminiscing about the night they first met and marveling at the magic that had brought them together. And so, Cinderella's life was transformed from one of hardship and sorrow to one of love and happiness. She never forgot the kindness of her fairy godmother or the lessons she had learned through her struggles. Her story became a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who heard it, reminding them that kindness, courage, and love can overcome even the greatest of obstacles. As the years went by, Cinderella and the prince were blessed with children, who they raised with the same values of kindness and compassion that had guided their own lives. The kingdom flourished under their rule, becoming a place where justice and mercy prevailed. One day, as Cinderella was walking through the palace gardens, she came upon a young girl sitting by the fountain, tears streaming down her cheeks. The girl looked up as Cinderella approached, her eyes wide with surprise. "Why are you crying, my dear?" Cinderella asked, gently. The girl sniffled and wiped her eyes. I lost my mother and my father remarried. My stepmother and stepsisters are so cruel to me. They make me do all the chores, and I never have any time for myself." Cinderella's heart ached for the girl, her own memories of similar experiences flooding back. She knelt down and took the girl's hand in hers. "I understand how you feel," she said softly. "I went through the same thing. But remember, no matter how difficult things may seem, there is always hope. Be kind, be brave, and believe in yourself. Magic can happen when you least expect it." The girl looked up at Cinderella with renewed hope in her eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty," she whispered. Cinderella smiled and gave the girl a reassuring hug. As she walked back to the palace, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her own experiences had given her the strength and wisdom to help others. And so, Cinderella continued to be a source of light and inspiration for the people of her kingdom. She hosted many gatherings and events, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their status, felt welcome and valued. Her kindness and generosity became legendary, and the kingdom flourished under her and the prince's rule. One evening, as Cinderella and the prince sat by the hearth, reminiscing about their journey together, Cinderella felt a sense of peace and contentment. She knew that her life had come full circle, and she was grateful for every moment, every challenge, and every blessing. As Cinderella grew older, she found great joy in teaching her own children the values that had guided her throughout her life. She would often tell them the story of her own journey, emphasizing the importance of kindness, courage, and the power of believing in oneself. One of Cinderella's favorite moments was during the evening, when she would sit with her children by the fireplace and share tales of her past. They listened with wide eyes and open hearts, eager to hear more about the magical night at the ball and the love that had blossomed between their parents. "Mother," one of her daughters asked one night, "do you think we will ever experience magic like you did?" Cinderella smiled, her eyes twinkling with the wisdom of her years. "Magic is all around us, my dear. It may not always come in the form of a fairy godmother or a magical gown, but it is there in the kindness we show to others, in the dreams we pursue with passion, and in the love we share with those dear to us." Her children took these words to heart, carrying them with them as they grew into compassionate and thoughtful individuals. They each found their own paths, guided by the principles their mother had instilled in them. As the years passed, Cinderella and the prince saw their children grow up and start families of their own. The palace was filled with the laughter of grandchildren who adored their grandparents and loved to hear the stories of the past. One particularly bright and sunny afternoon, Cinderella was sitting in the garden, surrounded by her family. The flowers were in full bloom, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of roses. She watched as her grandchildren played, their laughter a sweet melody that filled her heart with joy. One of her granddaughters ran up to her, breathless with excitement. "Grandmother, tell us the story of the ball again." Cinderella chuckled softly. "How many times have you heard that story, my dear?" "Not enough," the girl replied with a wide grin. "Please, just once more." With a contented sigh, Cinderella began to recount the tale once again, her voice filled with warmth and nostalgia. As she spoke, she noticed the way her family gathered around her, their faces lit up with the same wonder and delight that she had felt on that magical night so many years ago. And so, the story of Cinderella became a cherished family tradition, passed down from generation to generation. It was a story of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love, a reminder that no matter how dark the times might seem, there is always light to be found. As Cinderella looked around at her family, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment and gratitude. She had come so far from the days of hardship and loneliness, and she knew that the journey had been worth every step. In her later years, Cinderella continued to be a beloved figure in the kingdom. She and the prince dedicated themselves to charitable works, helping to improve the lives of those less fortunate. They established schools, hospitals, and shelters, ensuring that everyone in the kingdom had access to the care and education they needed. Cinderella often visited these institutions, spending time with the children and families who benefited from their efforts. She listened to their stories, offered words of encouragement, and reminded them that they too could overcome their struggles and achieve their dreams. One day, while visiting an orphanage, Cinderella met a young boy named Thomas. He was shy and withdrawn, with a sadness in his eyes that tugged at her heart. She sat down next to him and began to talk, sharing her own story of loss and hardship. "You know, Thomas," she said gently, "I lost my mother when I was very young too. And for a long time, I felt very alone. But I learned that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. You just have to believe in yourself and hold on to your dreams. Thomas looked up at her, his eyes filled with a glimmer of hope. Do you really think things will get better? He asked softly. I do, Cinderella replied with a reassuring smile. I believe that with all my heart, and I believe that you have the strength to overcome any challenge that comes your way. Thomas's face lit up with a small smile, and from that day on, he began to open up and find joy in life once again. Cinderella's words had planted a seed of hope in his heart, just as they had done for so many others over the years. As the years went by, Cinderella and the prince grew older, their love and bond only growing stronger with time. They continued to rule the kingdom with wisdom and compassion, their legacy of kindness and generosity leaving an indelible mark on all who knew them. On their 50th wedding anniversary, the kingdom held a grand celebration in their honor. People from all corners of the realm came to pay tribute to the beloved rulers who had brought so much joy and prosperity to their lives. During the festivities, Cinderella and the prince took a moment to reflect on their journey together. They marveled at the twists and turns their lives had taken, the challenges they had faced, and the incredible love that had carried them through it all. As they stood hand in hand, looking out over the gathered crowd, the prince turned to Cinderella with a tender smile. We've had quite the adventure, haven't we? Cinderella nodded, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. Yes, we have, and I wouldn't trade a single moment of it. With a final dance under the stars, Cinderella and the prince celebrated their enduring love, surrounded by their family, friends, and the people of the kingdom who adored them. As the night came to a close and the celebrations wound down, Cinderella and the prince returned to their chambers, feeling content and at peace. They knew that their story had come full circle, and that they had created a legacy of love, kindness, and hope that would live on long after they were gone. And so, Cinderella's life was transformed from one of hardship and sorrow to one of love and happiness. She never forgot the kindness of her fairy godmother or the lessons she had learned through her struggles. Her story became a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who heard it, reminding them that kindness, courage, and love can overcome even the greatest of obstacles. This was the fairy tale of Cinderella. As you drift off to sleep, remember Cinderella's journey. Her story reminds us that no matter the trials we face, kindness, courage, and hope can lead to a life of joy and fulfillment. May her legacy inspire your dreams, filling them with the magic of possibility and the beauty of a heart that never loses hope. Good night and sweet dreams.